Today when I walked my kids to the bus wasn't there, and it was late significantly by like 15 minutes, and I couldn't figure out why. I opened up my apps and I see that there had been some rocket attacks in central Israel. Now, anybody who's listening to this, that's my family, we actually didn't really get alerts because in the small pocket of Israel where we are living, that wasn't a targeted area. But the targets on other parts of the country do affect us with, things like bus services to school. But let's talk about civilian areas being targeted in Israel. This happens all the time. And it's not talked about because of the Iron Dome. It's not talked about unless there is an injury or a death. But this is a reality that Israelis live with every single day. And as I'm looking at the app, attacks are continuing on northern cities. There's now a northern front that's opened up with Hezbollah in Lebanon that is attacking Israel. When people talk about proportionate responses, Israel is not going to do a proportionate response and attack civilians. Israel goes after leaders of terrorism. And part of the retaliation for those leaders is to go after Israel's civilian population. When you talk about indiscriminate bombing, that's not something that Israel does. That's something that Hezbollah does against Israel when they send indiscriminate rockets to civilian towns and cities and not military bases. They're not trying to take out a military base or a nuclear base or an IDF commander. They're just shooting rockets at cities. If you're sitting in a comfortable place in the West, particularly on a college campus in America, a lot of this does not fit into the narrative. And so you really should hear it from here. In Israel, when you get a notification that there's a red alert, you have to run to your bomb shelter. Sometimes that's in your house, sometimes it's outside your house. And depending on how far you are from the origin of that rocket attack, you have between 15 seconds and like a minute and a half to get to the bomb shelter. And if that happens in the middle of the night when you have children, you gotta wake them all up and run them to the bomb shelter. In America, we have fire drills, and in Israel, a lot of families and a lot of schools have rocket attack drills, running to the shelter. This is a reality that Israel lives with every day. It's not broadcast across the world because there are not casualties every single day from these rocket attacks. Thank goodness, because Israel has the Iron Dome. Now, sometimes the Iron Dome doesn't work and the rockets come through, and then it's really scary, but if they fall in an open area, it also is a story that won't make it out nationally or globally because there are no casualties. I just wanted to put out a quick video this morning to point that out, that this is something that happens every day. It affects every person in Israel. Now, because Hezbollah is attacking northern Israel, a lot of the Israelis from northern Israel have had to evacuate. We have lots of evacuees that have joined other schools, including my children's schools that have evacuees in their class because it's not safe to be up north. And as Israel is beginning to push back on the north, and they're going to apparently start a campaign, we don't know when, they're going to have to push back on the north in order to basically push the border back to where it was, because you can't have this much of the country out of their homes. And as they do that, a lot of people from southern Lebanon are now relocating to northern Lebanon to get out of harm's way. What I am seeing out of Lebanon, news coming out of Lebanon, is that the Lebanese people don't want Hezbollah in their country. When Iran uses terror proxies like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like other places where they have built terror cells, the war that takes place on those grounds basically destroys the country. Nobody wants to invite a war onto them, and it's very easy for Iran to do because as long as that war is not on Iranian soil, Iran doesn't care. You think Iran cares about the people? Iran is an extremist regime. And I've said this before in other videos, is that when Iran has these proxies, they end up destroying the country. And instead of focusing on prosperity, they focus on destruction, and they are used as a wing of Iran to fulfill their terror aspirations around the world. I just wanted to put this out here as a reminder that Israel is fighting a war on multiple fronts. It's not just Gaza, it's also Lebanon, it's also Yemen, Iran, Syria, and it's also a war of information all over the world and in the West. So Israel is fighting a war on many, many fronts right now. If you lived in Ramat Gan or in other cities in central Israel, it was a terrifying morning for people that lived in central Israel who had to run to their bomb shelters. Again, not everyone is feeling the impacts, and the degree to which they're feeling varies depending on where your home is. So I just wanted to keep this in people's consciousness, keeping an eye on my Red Alert app, and I'll see you later.